If you were going to buy a car for a road trip, what would you choose? Well, I suppose it would depend on your criteria. And my criteria for this trip is going to be back to basics.
But what exactly do I mean by basics? Here's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I want to focus on the bottom two, the main foundation of the triangle. Safety and security and physiological needs. Sleep and rest. Food, water, shelter, warmth. Basic needs.
So for most people that leave the military, it's usually not a very good time for them. It's quite a hard place to transition out of. One thing that I have found, you get caught in the rat race a little bit. What that career choice was really good at was making you appreciate all the small things that we now take for granted, like being warm, having food, not being sleep deprived. So it needs to be big enough for me to comfortably live in for a short while. Obviously carry my food, kit and equipment. It's generally also be enjoyable to be in, because I wouldn't want to drive a shit car and not enjoy the drive, which is why I've chose this Land Rover Discovery 3. I did mention that this car needed to be comfortable enough to live in and work in, and for that I know it's back to basics, but I do need some sort of electricity so that I can work on my laptop and things. So that's why I've installed these two 100 watt solar panels, charge controller into a battery, leisure battery, so that I can work while I'm in here from a desk that I've created. But I've not really got any kit in here at the minute other than just my camera kit and also stuff that's mechanically necessary. And this is going to be my Bible, the Land Rover Discovery manual, because these cars are not known for their reliability. So if you don't take the approach of fixing niggles and preempting any mechanical failures by daily maintenance, then you probably shouldn't own one of these cars, and you'll not get the benefits of all the amazing things that go with it, because there are some pretty amazing features on this vehicle that make it drive like it's way ahead of its time. And one of those features is this air suspension, which is insanely good off-road. Another thing that I absolutely love about this vehicle is the split tailgate, because I'll be able to use it as a desk to just cook on and just do general admin. Really handy. And this is going to be my bed. It's not the biggest, and I'm quite a big guy. I'm 6'2" and weigh about 95 kilos, but it'll be big enough for me. It will tick the box of needing sleep and rest, and also being dry, hopefully, that this doesn't have any sunroof leaks. The only thing I will say is that it's a thing within the car industry that you don't buy a car from Birmingham. Now, I don't know why, don't ask me why, I'm sure someone will tell me in the comments section, as I would like to know. But the index on this vehicle is BN, and because this is a pre-2013 car, we can gain from that this car was sold initially in Birmingham. So I'm hoping this car's the exception that proves the rule.
Let's just go back a second, because there were other cars that I did look at. My first thoughts are a Land Rover Freelander 1. The Land Rover snobs would say to me that this is not a proper Land Rover, which is incorrect. Gonna have to move on, because that's not going to be big enough. It's just not going to feel very special doing it in a BMW X5, especially one that looks like a drug dealer car like that. That's nice, but it's 25 grand, so no. This is a genuine option. It's not a bad price. It's definitely big enough, and it looks like it'll just never break down, and that's just not going to be interesting enough for a YouTube video. I do like these. They are huge. There is so much room in them, more than there would be in any other option that I could possibly think of. I think this is going to be the one in terms of vehicle selection. So in 2023, this Land Rover sold for £12,000. That is not too bad for a car once owned by King Charles. And if it's good enough for the King of England, then it's good enough for me.
I'm going to put this into extended mode for suspension and tell it that it's in ruts, because that's what it's going to be like where I'm going to be driving. And we're away. Parking sensors, don't want that on, not while we're doing this. It would be a bit of a sin, having never owned a Land Rover, to not at least go green laning once or take it off road. Now, Land Rover is known for being a capable vehicle off road, and given that this car only cost me £2,850, I still don't know if that's a lot to pay for a junk of metal just to break down. Maybe they're not that unreliable, they just have a bad rep. We'll soon find out. Maintenance is definitely going to be key. Keeping on top of anything that beeps at me, brakes, leaks fluid, diesel, anything like that. There's actually an insane amount of tech on this car, considering how old it is, which is 2006, which makes it 18 years old. Well, it's getting through this easy. So this is a pretty tame green lane, really. I think by any standards. And I don't take it off anywhere worse than this, simply because it needs to get me to Turkey. Look at this. This is hilarious. Open top bus and it's pissing it down raining. Nobody up there. So what am I actually going to do on OÞLUM X road trip? Well, for starters, I'm going to be going from the Peak District, making my way south, getting a ferry across to France to meet the base jumpers. I'm going to be pushing on to Greece, where I'm going to hike Mount Olympus. On from there, I'm going to be going to Turkey. I'm going to be taking it back to basics and spearfishing for my supper. That will be my final stop. It is grim out there and I'm just about to set off, so couldn't have picked a better day to be leaving the UK. It has not stopped raining all day, so I'm expecting not a smooth run down there. Probably traffic will be terrible. I imagine someone will have had a crash at some point, although nothing's showing up on Google just yet. But for bad drivers, just add water, so this is not, doesn't bode well for this journey. But get down to Dover and then get on the ferry, get over to France, head south as much as possible, and hopefully the weather's going to get better. Officially setting the clock to 0 miles, and just in case that doesn't work properly, which might be the case, 204,056 miles. So I'm a big fan of the philosophy, a rising tide floats all boats. So when I was planning this road trip, I wanted to involve other brands. Brands that are keen on adventure, provide a good product, and they care about customer service. So in each part of this road trip, I'm going to do a little chat about one of the sponsors, what they provide, why their product is so good, and why I use it. And on this, I'll be starting with TACCAP. I love a good cap, and if you're a baldy like me, then it's a cheaper alternative than going to Turkey. Not only that, it also looks good too. And how are TACCAP slightly different? They've done an ingenious little adaptation to the classic trucker cap by making a Velcro patch onto it that has a removable artistic feature. It's a really handy but simple adaptation, and there's loads of smart designs on the TACCAP website, so definitely go and check them out. There's something for everyone on there, whether it's in your niche or discipline, there's something for you in there. Now Ben, the founder, I've got a little surprise for him. When I was leaving the military a few years back now, I started another arm of TACCAP, which is called Forces Art, where we would do art designs and have them printed and framed. I never got the chance to hang up some artwork that I bought off him. I've now brought it with me, and it's going to live in the Land Rover. And it's now no mechanical issues to report. The Landy is flown down to Dover, and I'm now waiting to board a midnight ferry. That was about a 4.5 hour drive, and it's gave me a little bit more faith in this vehicle. I'm going to make a push a couple of hours south once I get into France, and then I'm going to be putting a stop in. I'll be spending my first night here in Le Landy. I asked at the start if you were going to choose a vehicle for a road trip, what would you choose? Now obviously I've chose this Land Rover Discovery 3, and now I'm going to make my case why I think you should do the same, and why I think this is the best fit for the job, especially in my case. For the money I paid for this car, it is exceedingly well spec'd. Carman and Hardman speakers, the sound quality in here is amazing. You get a fridge in the middle, I've got cruise control, and the seats and the driving position are just the best that I've ever sat in. It's impressive actually. It's a testament to Land Rover that this vehicle was so good, and it's so old now, and yet it still feels ahead of its time almost. The anxiety that comes with driving this Land Rover, the fear of it breaking down, which might be a false fear, it's a toss-up, because I wouldn't have that anxiety in a Toyota or maybe in a BMW X5, but it just wouldn't be as special. It wouldn't drive as nice. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I really do love this car. I've said to myself, if it makes it to Turkey, I'm going to treat it to some new things where I'll be happy to spend a bit of money on it, knowing that it is actually a solid engine. But anyway, that's my 10 pence on Land Rover Discovery 3, and why I'm absolutely chuffed that this was my choice, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the road trip in this vehicle. I seriously hope it doesn't break down. If it does, then I'll just not publish this bit of the video. I'm still in northern France at the moment, but not for much longer. I'm eating up the miles heading south on the French version of the Alpha 1 A1. The Land Rover will unfortunately feature less and less. Hopefully, if it doesn't break down, then it will be staying out of the picture to make way for the base jumping, hiking, spearfishing, and all the other cool things that I'm hoping to get done on this road trip. I suppose this brings part 0 to an end.
Make sure you subscribe to see if this Land Rover makes it all the way to Turkey.